Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Cooper, and I'm in the business school Front of Mind Coaching. I'm a LinkedIn specialist, and today this is an informal drop-in session. It's a bit of an experiment, really. I'm just inviting people to come along and ask questions on an informal basis, just to drop in sometime between 5 and 6. We'll see how it goes. There are several people that I believe are coming along, and hopefully one or two of those people will be joining me in the Hangout itself. We'll see how things go. I have also got a Periscope set up just to the side here. So if things are a bit quiet, then we may go to Periscope and see if we can get some questions from the Periscope people there. And that'll be my first time I've done a scope, actually, so that'll be quite exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking. I've already got a few questions that I'm going to come to in a few minutes, but I just want to wait for a short while to give people a chance to join me on the thread. Yeah, I'm using a product called Comment Tracker, which, if you haven't used it, shows the different comments that people are making in the thread, either on YouTube as well. So let's see who we've got. Hi, Mary. You're welcome to come in if you'd like to. I'm going to start answering some questions in a moment. And Melanie Hall is watching on YouTube. Hello, Melanie. That's great to see you. And thank you for your question, Melanie. So, yeah. All right. Let's get down to a few questions, shall we? So, Mary Stovall has a great question. That's about groups. So I think, Mary, because you're here first and promptly, we'll come to your question first. Here we go. So where are we, Mary? Yeah, just get Mary's question up. Yeah. Mary is interested in groups and finding the best group. Now, specifically, Mary's asked me about, it's for a client. It's a female-focused co-working space looking to expand in the US and then internationally. And one of the issues that Mary's having, I can see, is that following the larger groups is difficulty in finding the demographics that are associated with those groups. The issue there, Mary, unfortunately, is a few weeks ago, a couple of months maybe now, that LinkedIn removed all of those stats from the groups. So it's quite difficult to actually find out how engaging those groups are. I'm assuming that you're okay searching and finding some of those relevant groups, but you just want to be able to see which of those groups are getting really good engagement. So the good news is I have a hack for you, and I'm just going to go and share my screen in a moment, and we'll look into that. Okay, just bear with me for 1 second. Just as I find my LinkedIn screen. Yeah, here we are. Right, so I don't know how well you can see this, Mary, but at the top of the screen here, every group has a group ID. I'm just highlighting it here. I'm gonna look for another group, actually. Group, I know this is my own private support group. I want to look for a group with a bit more activity on, because that's primarily just a Q&A group. So I'm going to look for a group I know where there's normally quite a bit of activity on. This is my local Chamber of Commerce group. Now, in these groups, you'll see that there is a group ID. Every URL for a group has an ID number. This one, it's 1842204. Right, so I'm going to copy that, And then I'm going to pop over to this. I have a URL here, which will take me to that group, and it takes me into the stats which have been removed. So now you see for that group, I can actually see the demographics again. I can see the growth from that group. There we go. And I can see the activity in that group. So actually there were very little activity last week, which is because it's a holiday. That was the main holiday week just commencing last week. So that's the stats back again. So what you have to do, Mary, you have to go to the group that you're interested in, copy the group ID, which will be contained in the URL, and then you put that on the end of this URL that I'm about to post in the thread. So here we are. So, yep. So if you just put the group ID on the end of that URL I posted in the thread, Mary, then that's the way that you get back to seeing the group stats again. I really don't know why LinkedIn removed the group stats. It wasn't very helpful at all. So we'll see. Hope that helps. Yeah, let me know how it goes. So I have a question here from Jazz Greer. Let's see Jazz's question. Here's my first question. Some time ago, when people were trying to build their profile and achieve what became all-star status, there was a saying that until you reach a certain level of completion on your LinkedIn profile, there's not quite room on the slide there, so I'll continue from the original post. Until you reach a certain level of completion on your LinkedIn profile, you would not even show in a LinkedIn search results. Is that still the case or not? Well, I've got an answer for you, Jazz. It's not exactly answering your question, but I've got an answer from LinkedIn support on this one. So the question is, what is it that affects your search visibility on LinkedIn? And these are the factors that affect it. And profile completeness is one of them. It used to be, let me just go back. LinkedIn changed their search engine about 18 months ago. And with the old search engine, it was really quite easy because basically people appeared, the order in which people appeared on your profile was, it would be first degree connections would come up first, and then second degree connections, and then third degree connections. And then with that, within that order, in your first degree connections, the people who you had most common connections with would be the next, would be the priority in that order. It was all very logical and very simple. But LinkedIn have redesigned the redesigned the search engine. It's now called Galen, and the emphasis is on producing, like Google, relevant results. So it's possible that a result might come up on the on your search where a second degree connection comes above a first degree connection, because LinkedIn algorithm is determining that that's more relevant to your search. So some of the factors that are relevant for that are definitely the more complete a profile is, the more likely you're going to be coming up in searches, the more visible you are on searches. I'm not aware of anything that says that if you haven't got a complete profile, or a very incomplete profile, that you're not going to come up at all. Certainly haven't come across that, but the completeness of your profile will affect your visibility on search. Things like skills, for example, recruiters and hirers are very much researching on skills, so it's important to have a good set of relevant skills listed. Your current and previous positions, again, those are Google searchable, those fields. Summary field, of course, is a Google searchable field, and I would recommend that, as well as putting a number of keywords into the main body of the summary field, that you also put a specialities section, write yourself a little specialities section at the bottom, and just fill that with all the keywords that you want to be found for. as long as you structure it like that as a sort of specialty section, it doesn't look like it's stuffed with keywords, but actually it is. So so that's a good way to make sure you're getting all the keywords into the profile section. Another little tip is to use standard titles. Quite often people will think of titles like, for example, I saw one this week like Chief Problem Solver. Now, people actually don't search for Chief Problem Solver. They search for standard job titles. So your visibility will be increased if you're using standard job titles. Okay, I hope that was helpful, Jazz. I'm very happy to send you the full text of the reply that I got on that particular one. Let's see what other questions we've got here now. Hi, Jazz, and I see Jazz has joined us. Welcome, Jazz. I hope you got that answer. If not, you'll get it on the recording. All right, let's see. So I had a question from Brian Pope. Yeah. Let's see Brian's question. Here we are. Brian's question is about integrating a blog with LinkedIn publishing. So many people, in fact, now a million people have published a blog on LinkedIn. So it's very popular. There's something like, goodness, what was the figure? 180,000 posts a week, I believe. The LinkedIn blog posts. It's a great question, and one that people get a bit confused about. So should you publish on your website or on LinkedIn or on both, and in which sequence? Well, the best practice, in my opinion, and this is from Mark Traphagen, who knows an awful lot more about search than I do, is you should publish the blog post on your website first, leave it a few days, and then republish on LinkedIn. And it's a good idea to put at the bottom of your LinkedIn blog post a sentence to the effect that a version of this post originally appeared on the website, and then put the link to the original post, simply so that Google knows which one is the original post. There's absolutely no problem republishing on LinkedIn a post that's come from your website, and you get really, I mean, my experience is you get really good engagement, Brian, on LinkedIn. I mean, quite a few of my posts have got 600-700 shares, and I'm talking shares, not likes. And the real key, in my opinion, the real value for most people of the LinkedIn blog post is that every time you publish a post, it's notified to all of your connections. So it's a really good way to keep front of mind with your connections. Now, if you really want to go viral, and I did a hangout a few weeks ago with Mark Miller from Austin in Texas. He's a career advisor for over 50s. That's his business. He's had several posts which have gone into hundreds of thousands. He had one post that did 600,000 views, even had 2,000 comments. The secret to getting really substantial numbers on the LinkedIn blog posts is to be selected for a channel. So if you haven't heard of channels, LinkedIn has channels rather like TV channels. There are about 45 of them, and then they change over time. The number goes up and down, and different channels are introduced, and some channels are retired. So, for example, there'll be a technology channel, there'll be an entrepreneur channel, there'll be a green business channel, there's a social media channel. If your post gets picked up and put in one of those channels, then it can go viral pretty quickly. So Martin Shevington, who many of you will know, has had a couple of posts in the last two posts have got great traction because they were picked up on the one was picked up in the I think there's a Google AdWords channel actually. Another one was picked up in marketing and advertising channel, and then they effectively get promoted by LinkedIn. So you're looking at a massive increase in views and engagement. Then, how do you get into a channel? Well, there are 3 ways you can get your post selected into a channel. The first way is if the algorithm recognizes it and puts it into that channel. Remember, LinkedIn's trying to present people in their home feed with the most relevant content. So if it feels your content is relevant, it will put it into a channel and it start promoting that content to people who have said they are interested in that particular type of content. Now, there's no guaranteed way to make sure you get the algorithm to recognize your post. But what you can do, you can go and look at the channels. To find the channels, go to the Pulse. Go to Pulse. In fact, I'll show you where the channels are so you can see. Let's see. Yep. So if I can now, I've got some instructions. I've got some icons on my screen. A bit of a nuisance actually, because that's where I want to go. That's it. So, okay, let's see. Right, beg your pardon, I haven't gone on to the correct, I'm not on LinkedIn yet, just a moment. Let's try that again. Okay, right, I just need to get my LinkedIn screen up. Bear with me a moment. Let's see if I can get this out. Yeah, here we are. Good. Okay. So under the interest section, I'm trying to get rid of these icons. I'm having great difficulty. Under the interest section is the Pulse section on Pulse, LinkedIn Pulse. If you click on that, then go to Discover, and then you scroll down, and I reassure you that you will come to eventually. You scroll through a number of windows, and eventually come to a section which says Channels. And it shows you the different channels, and you can click on them and you can see some of the articles in those channels. So you want to then compose your article. Say you're in a green business, you want to compose your article to be something like some of the articles that are appearing in that channel. So sorry that I couldn't show you them more clearly there. Okay, let's have a look. Hope that helps, Brian. Let's have a look. What are the questions we've got here? There's one from Melanie. Hi, Melanie. And right now, I don't know the answer to your question. Melanie's saying that LinkedIn doesn't accept the Owly Hootsuite shortener. Are there any other URL shorteners it doesn't accept? Not that I'm aware of. Of course, for most posts, if you're doing an update post, you just put the main link in there. LinkedIn will automatically pick up the link and connect it with the post. I'll have a look into that for you, Melanie, and I'll let you know if I can find out any more about that one. Thanks very much for the question. It's not one I've come across before. I generally use, if I'm putting a shortener in, I use the Google shortener, but that's mostly in my messages. I wouldn't generally bother with the shortener in most posts, because LinkedIn, as I say, will pick up the connection to the link anyway and automatically grab the image. Okay, and I've got another question here from John Delgado. Now, John couldn't be with us today. He's out at a client meeting, but his question was that he's built up already something like 3,000 connections, and he wants to push on to 5,000, and he wants to know the best way to do that. There is a sort of significant difference between US and UK in terms of number of connections. It's much more common in the US for people to have 10, 15, 20,000 connections. That's really pretty unusual in the UK and Europe at the moment, where it's much more common for people to have several hundred or 1,000. Certainly when people have got 2,000 or 3,000 connections, those I would say are more advanced, established users. So for John to want to get, John already having 3,000, that's a pretty substantial number for a UK user, and he wants to push it up to 5,000. So that would be a pretty big network for a UK user. I think the first question that I'd ask John on this one would be, what do you want to achieve? And are you doing everything you could from the 3,000 connections you already have in terms of generating business? Because I know that's your ultimate aim, is to generate business. You're just going to take time to build up to another 2,000 to add to that. So my first question would be really, are you exploiting the existing connections you've got as fully as you could in terms of generating meetings, generating conversations, etc.? But let's assume that you are. So what's the best way to do this? There isn't a formula, but there's a few points I think I would mention. First of all, I think I'd set a target. So I'd set yourself a target to say you're going to connect with, you're going to send out 200 invites a week or 100 invites a week, whatever it is. So you can then track that, see how many invites you're actually sending out. As I think you know, John, LinkedIn is pretty inconsistent in how it allows us to connect with people. Sometimes it's very fussy, and other times it will just allow you to connect without putting a personalized message. The best practice is always to send a connection invitation with a personalized message. But I would say if there's a shortcut there, it's you can send a standard message without the personalization to anybody you know well that you haven't connected with. That would be the first point. So that saves a little bit of time. Let me see. The other thing is to focus obviously on your second degree connections, and within that to focus on the second degree connections who have the most common connections, because there's the biggest reason for them to connect with you, because you already have a shared network. So I think I would focus on those. I can also show you ways to connect with people without having their email address. There is a way of doing that on LinkedIn, which is perfectly legitimate, and that certainly speeds up your ability to connect with people there. So I think those would be my main points. I don't know if anybody on the thread would like to add to that. I mean, there's various sort of conversations about this, what you should and shouldn't do. People, there's three, in my opinion, there's three connection strategies that you can have. There's there's what's called the lion strategy, where, let me just unshare that screen for a moment then. Oops. Bear with me a minute. Just want to, oh yes. Where are we? I've got several things going on here, and it's just remembering which buttons do what. Yeah, there's three strategies really. So on the one hand, you've got the I will connect with anybody strategy, and there are people on LinkedIn known as lions. I don't know if you've seen that, a LinkedIn open networker, and they will put the lion word on there in capitals on their profiles. And what that means is they will connect with anybody. And typically a lot of lions will be recruiters, not exclusively, but a lot of lines will be recruiters. So they're looking to build the biggest possible network they can. A line will always put their email address somewhere prominent within their profile, so it makes it easy to connect to them, and you know that they will accept when you connect, when you send a connection request. So there's no issue about sending a request to them. However, I'd be a little bit careful about how many lines you wish to connect to, because they're fairly indiscriminate they are indiscriminate by definition with who they're connecting to. So the next category, the other extreme, is I will only connect to people who I've met. So quite a lot of people will have that as a criteria. That's a little bit restricting. So my recommendation is the third one, the middle way, which is kind of connect broadly within your niche, but intelligently. So connect with people where there is value. I had an invitation from a landscape gardener in South Africa recently, and there's really very little value for him or for me in us connecting, so I didn't connect. I suppose for me, I will connect with about 50% of the people who send me invitations, and that's my policy. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions here in the thread at the moment. I think Krishna Day was hoping to join us as well. Yeah. Yeah, good, Brian. Glad you found that question, that answer useful. Good, yeah, good. I see you had an appointment, 1 hour appointment that turned into 2.5 jazz. Yeah, I know those. Okay, I think I've covered most of the questions in the thread at the moment. Please, if you have any more questions, pop them in the thread and I'll see them and pick them up. I've got a couple of other questions that other people have asked me that I'm going to cover as well. One question that comes up, I think, quite a lot, and there's a very simple solution to it, is people have asked me about, you probably know already how to do a customized LinkedIn address. You know your LinkedIn address, which says like UK, for us it'd be like uk/linkedin.com/Greg Coopers. That's my customized address. If it wasn't customized, it would have a whole bunch of numbers on the end of it. It looks pretty unattractive. Benefit of having a customized address, of course, is that you can put that, it looks much more professional for a start. It gives the message that you actually know a bit about what you're doing. And you can put that address, custom address, into your email signature, for example, and that's a good way to promote your profile. But what about your company address? So lots of people have got company addresses, and LinkedIn doesn't have an official way to customize a company address, but I've worked out there's a really simple way to do that, which I'm going to show you now. Let's see. So I'm going to go to the hoping you can see this okay. Just going to do a bit of work on it here. I'm going to hope you see this all right. I'm going to look for my company page, Front of Mind Coaching. Okay, so my company page comes up. By the way, there's a new admin center which has more detailed stats and including notifications that LinkedIn have added into the company page. The company page has always been a real disappointment actually for me, because it's the place where a company represents itself on LinkedIn, and it's really been poorly designed and a neglected area by LinkedIn. But I think that's beginning to change, and my prediction would be that you're going to see a lot more interesting features and functionality on the company page, and this admin center perhaps is the beginning of that at last. So I have got my URL. It's a really long and nasty URL at the top. But what I discovered, if you click, I hope this still works, if you click on the logo, then what happens is it brings up a much more friendly company address. You can discard everything after and including the question mark. So what I'm left with is the www.linkedin.com/company/front of mind coaching. Okay, so all I did to do that was I just went to the company page and then double clicked on the logo. So that I hope will be helpful for some of you. I just think that it's a really a real oversight by LinkedIn not to be giving people that ability to do a customized company page. Again, it's just a reflection of the fact that company page has been a low priority for LinkedIn because they're 2/3 of their business or 60% of their business nowadays is still from recruitment, so they're very much focused on that rather than helping companies to promote their brand. Good. Peter Feltham has joined us. Great. Hello, Peter. Great to see you. Let's see. Have you got a question, Peter? Okay, let's have a look at Peter's question here. Lions are a Royal PTA. I get head and tapped any people I don't know. Yeah, they're making assumptions about my motivation. They're completely off target. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I know about something about what you're doing, Peter. So obviously that would be very very difficult for a recruiter to understand that. Yeah. So I don't recommend linking to lots of Lions, and indeed not linking to lots of recruiters unless you're really looking for a job right now. Yeah, good. Well, it's great to see you all here actually, and I'm really pleased that you came along. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. This is an experiment by me to find ways in which I can give people some extra help and support with their LinkedIn activity. And it's good for me because I get questions I don't know the answers to, like Melanie's question. So I've got to go away and do some research on that, and that helps me to learn and add to my knowledge bank as well. Haha! Thank you for the wave, Peter. Okay, so okay, I'll go to another one of my questions from my customer support group, and their question was, where can I find what I've shared or my likes? So is there a place I can go to find my likes, my shares, etc., so I can quickly see what I've been doing? And the answer to that is yes. So I'm going to just share this again. This is a very simple one. So to find out your activity, you go to the profile page and to your updates, and there you go. You can see the updates I've liked, commented on, or shared, and also my own posts. And there's one there on David Cameron. David Cameron is out in Singapore at the moment doing some business for the UK, which is good. So I shared a post that he'd put on LinkedIn, and simply saying that David Cameron was doing his business development role, and shared that comment. And these are all the comments and posts I've made. I've shared a post about LinkedIn notifications. I've liked one of Ray Hiltz's posts. And there's an interaction there. There's a post I did about comments I made on someone's post, and Jazz has contributed. Oh, this is a post that Jazz did. That's right. I commented one of Jazz's posts. There's a post I put in a group, Plus Your Business group, etc. So it's got all the activity that I've been involved in. So that's underneath the profile, and it's just simply your updates. So that was that one. Okay. Good. Peter, thank you very much. So you think this is a good idea to do these sessions? Yeah, I'm really pleased that you're finding it helpful. Yeah, great. I mean, the original idea was it'd be a kind of drop-in session so that people could just drop in, ask some questions or leave some questions, and I could answer them, and then we'd take it from there. So yeah, it's just an experiment. I said 5 to 6. I've made it an open session so everyone could drop in. I find people are a little bit, I don't know about you, but I find people a little bit frightened sometimes about coming into Hangouts. So I've invited quite a few of my customers to come in this afternoon to the session, and I know a number of them would be you know, would definitely have questions, but I think they're just a little bit nervous about the technology, about the Hangouts, and also about the fact that it's publicly broadcast. I mean, I don't know, would you think this would be better to do this as a private broadcast? I mean, I could still invite everybody, I could invite people in specifically, and it could be a private broadcast. I mean, I'm going to list this as an unlisted Hangout at the end of the session, so I'm not intending to use this as a promotional tool. It's purely as a service to my connections and my network, really. But that, I don't know, you know, maybe that's an issue, but you know, I'm aware that obviously it's holiday as well, so several of my customers said they would have liked to have come, but they were just struggling. Either they're away or else they've got meetings. But we'll see. But thank you very much for your encouragement. I'm really pleased about that. Yeah. Okay, let's have another question. Another question from Jazz. Thanks, Jazz. Do you think people should use the download your profile as a PDF function more and use this to send to prospects with quotes? Yeah. Yeah, the only trouble with that, Jazz, is if I remember correctly from the last time I did it, it gives a fairly cut down, watered down version of your profile. It's certainly not a bad thing to do, because as well as getting the quotation, for example, that you might be sending, which can be quite a dry document, you've got the profile of the individual, with some background on their sort of, you know, who they are, where they've worked, what their skills are. I'm not sure if his skills would be, probably his skills wouldn't be listed in that, no. So it's an interesting idea, actually, worth experimenting with, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I quite often share people's LinkedIn profile with other connections when I think it might be useful to them. So I quite often will connect people up, and the first thing I'll do is I say, look, this is someone that I know, would you be interested in being introduced to them? And then I'll just share the profile. I think that's a really useful function. But yeah, thanks, Jazz. A good question. Yeah, and Jazz's comment here: public's better than recorded, as HR, so you can send a link to clients. Yeah. I definitely, for marketing purposes, I agree. Absolutely, yeah. I think just my reservation was that whether, certainly from some of the people who are clients of mine who are not necessarily Google conversant, and certainly not Hangout conversant, might be just a little bit nervous about the fact that they're putting questions out in the public domain. I think sometimes we forget, don't we, that you know, we get so used to this fantastic technology that Google's given us, these Hangouts, and we're also used to doing them sometimes that we feel quite comfortable with it. I mean, I remember the first time I was on a Hangout, and I was sharing a Hangout. I was being interviewed with an American LinkedIn and social media specialist, and we'd had a conversation before, We knew what we were going to talk. We had some structure to the call, and the person that was interviewing us had a bunch of questions. We knew more or less what was going to happen, and then all of a sudden that live button went, and I just froze, and it was terrible. I couldn't talk. So yeah, a bit of the fear factor, perhaps. That's what I was wondering about. I mean, I certainly have done Hangouts, private Hangouts with clients about LinkedIn. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. I've had another client contact me today, actually, and they said that they have a client who would be interested in using Hangouts as a webinar tool. And you know, what did I think about that? Did I think that that would be a suitable thing? And actually, do you know, truthfully, I think that if a client, if it's not a big deal to have the recording, then I have found that that Skype in its business form is probably more friendly for new users. If you're looking at people who are familiar with Google Plus, already have a Gmail account, and would like the extra functionality, and particularly would like the ability to have private Hangouts, private video calls, and the ability to record when that's important, then absolutely Hangouts are brilliant. But for the novice user, I'm thinking that actually increasingly Skype is probably the thing to introduce them to, and then maybe to move them on to Hangouts as well, if that's more relevant in the future. But you can share screens on Skype. You know, I was quite impressed by how much Skype had moved on. I mean, I was doing some coaching with a company recently that writes websites for American companies selling into Europe, and their corporate platform was Skype. So, you know, I explained to them that I used Hangouts, but there was no way they were all going to change to Hangouts because Skype was their platform. So I had to bow and use Skype. And actually, I was quite impressed with it. On the whole, we didn't have too many problems, and we could share screens. But of course, you don't have the great functionality like the comment tracker and all the apps. You can't put tiaras on. And you don't have the YouTube integration, which is really, really valuable, as you say, Jazz. You know, it's just a real key part of this functionality. Let's see if there's any more questions. Good. Yeah, I agree, Mary, that you know, what I could do with some of my clients is do that, and I do that actually. Have a sort of private 5-minute training with them to understand how they can join a Hangout. I would always try and do that. It's just too disruptive having people crash into a Hangout who are not familiar with it. I'm sure you know, you've had that experience too. Yeah, I'm just seeing if we have any more questions now. Yeah, maybe that should be it, Peter. Greg's LinkedIn clinic. Yeah, I did actually some time ago think I might do the LinkedIn lunch. That was one thing I thought I might do, but what's sorry. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah. Your experience of Skype too is that it's easier for people. Yeah. I was going to do the LinkedIn lunch, and then because I've got sort of connections on the West Coast, on the East Coast of the States, and also in Europe, so it was what's lunch for one group of people is breakfast for others, and it's supper for others, and sort of got a bit complicated then. But the idea of doing something like that is really good. Yeah, and I do need to get a better picture because I'm based in Bristol. And Bristol's got a very, very famous suspension bridge that was developed by Isambard Brunel. And so I need to get a picture of Clifton Suspension Bridge behind me, not a picture of New York. The reason that I have a picture of New York and Brooklyn Bridge is because that's where my daughter is. So it kind of reminds me of, you know, that there is that connection there. But yeah. So yeah. Okay, so it's we've done about 50 minutes. I didn't know how long we would do today. Really, I just put 5 to 6 p.m. as a sort of drop-in thing, and not sure whether people would come for the whole session or would just be dropping in. But I think we'll probably wrap it up there in a minute, unless anyone's got any other questions. I was going to do a Periscope session during this, and it is all set up. I've got it all set up next to me. I now know how to do it. So I think Jazz, you're on Periscope, aren't you? A few of us have got Periscope accounts, but perhaps really sort of novices still. I literally just know what to do. I've had one private session. Thanks, Mary. But that will be the next fun thing to do, I think. The problem with doing a Q&A, I did wonder about doing this on Periscope, just on Periscope, which obviously is good for audience-wise, because the audience on Periscope is a lot bigger than the audience on Google Plus at the moment. In reality, because Periscope also links to Twitter, and you've got all the aspects of that. But the problem there is you don't have the screen share, and I do think the screen share is quite a useful thing to have. And obviously, I haven't got the comment tracker facility there, although there are sort of messages and notes that people publish on Periscope. But perhaps that's something I can try in the future. I will be trying that in the future actually, and see how that works out. Oh yes. Just a minute, I've got another question. Yeah, Periscope and Meerkat. Yeah. I think I'm going to probably focus on Periscope, Peter, actually, because I don't think I've got the bandwidth to do too. So a few more comments here. Let's have a look. Yeah, we could have, it could be called Greg's Linky Dinky Question Clinky Sessions. I like that. Yeah, thanks, Jazz. And yeah. Okay, great. All right, look, lovely. Thank you very much for coming along today. And Melanie on YouTube there, I will get back to you about the URL shortener, and hope you all have a great afternoon, morning, evening, whichever time zone you're in. And thanks again for coming. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the questions. It's great for me, and hopefully I've been able to be helpful to you in some of those questions. And I'll let you know the next time that I'm doing this, and if you're free, it'd be great if you could drop in again. So I'm going to stop the broadcast now. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you everyone for watching, and anyone who's watching the broadcast on the recording. Thanks again.